So my friends, as part of our 75th anniversary celebration, the committee that is overseeing this celebration for our synagogue had the wonderful idea of inviting our past presidents to come and to do the announcements, to share their presidential seat on the bema once more, and also to take a few moments within the context of our service just to share a few thoughts and reflections or anecdotes over their time as having been president of the congregation. So this Shabbat, we are very pleased to be able to share the bema with Phil Metson. Phil was president of the congregation on years 2000 and 2001, if I remember correctly. Yeah? And was a wonderful president and really took on so many different projects within the congregation. And one of the hallmarks of Phil's time as president and beyond in his emails to me and to others is this constant questioning, this constant pushing, this constant understanding of the problems that face a congregation such as ours, and rather than turning from them, to constantly seek ways to push us, as well as himself, to address those problems. It is a pleasure to be able to share the bema this morning once again with Phil Metson.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. It's been 10 years since they allowed me up here to do this, and you may now see why. But you know, Rabbi, thinking and coming back here again, there's just something fundamentally different, and I was a little bit confused. I'm stumbling a little bit. There's a change, there's a difference. And Rabbi, is it your suit? Is it the way you're wearing your hair? I really don't know what it is, Rabbi. Rabbi Rothblum, could you help me figure it out? Oh, sorry. So, Shabbat Shalom to all of you who've joined our congregation this morning. I would like to thank those who participated in our services. Our Darshan, Rabbi Matt Rosenberg, the eyes of Texas shall be upon you. The Gabayim, Saul Halpern and Mel Aronoff. To our readers, Jordan and Michael Kallman, Bennett Spiegel, Daniel Tamler, Haftorah, of course, our Bar Mitzvah, Jordan. Ashrei Alexandra Morgan Kaplan, who will be joining us next week, with past president being the Darshan as well as speaking. Our Bar Mitzvah anniversary, Daniel Tamler, Robert Sachs was our Aliyah coordinator, and they were very coordinated. And Herb Moore and Ray Glasser were our greeters this morning, and I thank everyone who has participated and helped in the service. On behalf of the entire community, we want to wish George and Audrey Mazel Tov in honor of their son's Bar Mitzvah. Jordan, I appreciate your speaking quickly. It gives me more time. Also, I want to thank the Kalman family because they are the sponsors of our Kiddush luncheon today. And we thank, on behalf of the entire congregation, we thank you for that. We also recognize the sisterhood volunteers who will be assisting at the luncheon today. Where's Daniel? Where is he? Daniel Tamler. Mazel Tov, Daniel, on the occasion of your Bar Mitzvah anniversary. Next Shabbat, Congressman Brad Sherman will be joining us to share a few words during the morning service, and we'll hold a discussion following the Kiddush luncheon. Please refer to your Shabbat Shalom announcement sheets for more details. Drop a little guilt and a little gelt at our Sisterhood's gift gallery after Shabbat. The proceeds from all sales support our synagogue and its programs, as well as Israel, through your purchases of products imported from Israel. In keeping with the spirit of Shabbat, please do not use cell phones or cameras while on our premises. As you depart from the sanctuary this morning, please remember to pick up our weekly Shabbat Shalom announcement sheets and look for the news of our upcoming events. The test on what's in the booklets will be on Tuesday. If you are our visitor or would you like to know more about our congregation, please come up and speak to one of the rabbis or one of the cantors immediately following the services. They'll be happy to talk to you, and we do invite each of you to become participants in our community. Next week, our past president honoree will be Lauren Fife, who served immediately after me in 2002 and 2003, and we welcome him back to the Bima. Rabbi Bernhardt was recently installed as president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis, so I give him a yasher koach on that. Rabbi, you will learn that the most important 3 words of your job are immediate past president. It is a job that I don't envy, being president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis. It's like herding katzes. You have to pay attention. So a special thanks to Bennett Spiegel, the current president, and my successor 6 times removed, for the honor to say a few words between the Torah service and the tuna service. I come with a band. Thank you, Rabbi. They don't heckle every past president. Bennett was wise enough to have the past president speak at this moment in time because it's the period when most people recognize that the Kiddush luncheon is being served and they've left already. I want to set my presidency in historical context. I was president at Adat Ari during the Bush-Cheney administration. For a 501c3, there are no political comments. That was meant to be neutral. If we were a 501c4, we'd be in trouble. Last Thursday, President Obama reminded us while giving a combined policy and commencement talk that on 9/11, our nation was stirred from complacency. 9/11 occurred during my term at Adat Ari. Suddenly, we were talking terrorism rather than Torah. On one side, I was faced with congregants who literally wanted armed guards on our roof. On the other side, parents were protesting that they didn't want any arms at all. They didn't want their children attending schools with guards. They didn't want their children going to school in fear. Our mail was opened off-site, away from our buildings and away from our staff. And we were discussing the merits of having ill-trained guards carrying guns. Which is more risky, the threat of terrorism that seemed at that time 3,000 miles away, or having an ill-trained armed guard with a gun around our children. We debated the risks of this and all sorts of passive and active security. But what really bothered me, and what even bothers me today, is the immense amount of money that we spent on guards and passive security. It's not just the stickers that are in your cars today, but it's a very expensive proposition. Now, we Jews are used to spending money on security because the Jewish community is at risk. After all, Israel is in a bad neighborhood, and many of our fellow Jews around the world are in bad neighborhoods. If you go to shul in Florence, Italy, you go with an armed guard. But I was really bugged and remained concerned about what happened to our budget. My budget was about $25,000 for security, but within a year or so, the budget was well into the 6 figures. You can imagine the impact that that has on our ability to hire clergy, teachers, staff, and to provide programs. And that, unfortunately, has been the lasting negative and detrimental impact on our congregation. It's an astounding number. We spend even more, and the impact and the burden has been aggressive and negative. As Rabbi Bernhardt mentioned, and I really can tell the two of them apart, that during my term, one Shabbat morning began. It was actually initiated by my predecessor, Rand Harris, and the development was a universal across the synagogue effort with the rabbis and the clergy, as well as the lay leadership and our staff, and some non-Adat Ari members, including Richard Levy, who was then involved with HUC and still is. Conservative Jews are basically what I call off the Jewish calendar. They're off the grid, so to speak. They're not concerned about Shabbat. They're not concerned about holiday celebrations. That doesn't mean they don't go, but they're just off the calendar. We conservative Jews have chosen as our primary calendar the secular calendar. So what does that mean? For example, we do drive on Shabbat. We don't walk to the shul. We don't live geographically around Adat Ari. We know we face competition from Little League, malls, the internet, just sleeping in, health clubs, Starbucks, you name it. We have all sorts of competition, which we recognize because we elected not to be on the Jewish calendar. When you're on the Jewish calendar, you live near the synagogue, and the calendar and the celebration of Shabbat and holidays are your central focus. So what does that mean for us when we're commanded to celebrate Shabbat? In fact, if you read a later passage in the Torah, there's some severe consequences if you don't celebrate Shabbat for us physically, life-threatening consequences. And what does that mean, not just for us personally, but what does that tell us about Jewish continuity? If we are personally at risk, is not Jewish continuity at risk if we don't celebrate the core of Judaism, Shabbat? So OSM was constructed and developed to provide a link so that we could encourage people to bridge back into Adat Ari. Now we have some remnants of OSM. It survived on Burbank for 10 years, and you all have your shakers, I hope, in your pockets, and you'll take them home, and that's part of OSM. And you heard some OSM melodies here this morning, at least I think these tone-deaf ears did. But they survive, and it's my hope that one Shabbat morning comes back. Don't get excited, but that's what I'm hoping for. And I hope that there will be other initiatives similar to one Shabbat morning to re-engage conservative Jews in the entire Jewish community, because one Shabbat morning not only was an inward reach, but it brought many non-Adat Ari members to our congregation. So I hope that the current president and those who follow put one Shabbat morning on the temple agenda and figure out ways to bring it and other elements back into our congregational life. Now, even though each past president is offered the opportunity to speak, I recognize that, as do all of my predecessors recognize, that the privilege of the office is not about the particular office holder, but it is a position of service in a now 75-year run for our congregation as part of a larger Jewish community and a larger chain of Jewish life. This sanctuary is our principal sacred space. But if you think about it, it's just wood and chairs and fabric and windows and some really nice windows and a parochah that our sisterhood made for us, but it's nothing more unless you join us. That's what makes this a